Welcome to day 3 of the 5-day track build challenge presented by Toyo Tires and Koenig Wheels.
On today's episode, we're going to install a whole bunch of K20 parts on the engine, the chassis, and we're going to get to installing a competition clutch.
And I'm here to help get the motor in the car with Hasport mounts and my expertise.
This is the factory clutch line and slave off the old S-Dizzle. And you can kind of make it work with the K-swap, but you have to cut, figure out new lines and all that. Or what you can do, as we did, is install the stainless steel braided line from K-Tuned.
Oh, nice.
Because we're converting the Civic to rear-wheel drive, this rear trailing arm, lower control arm is actually pretty worn out, and we need to change it. If you can, this bushing here, it's pretty loose, worn out, and tired. We're going to be pressing in these new hard race bushings. Way stiffer, and it'll be perfect for those rear-wheel drive burnouts.
Yeah, I think Ken may be pulling your leg on the rear-wheel drive conversion, but he's not joking about the bushing being way stiffer. Let's give a close-up. This is their hardened rubber. So like we talked about with the front lower bushings, this is an OE style rubber, but just much stiffer than the stock stuff, so it'll reduce a lot of movement. And as you can see in this giant bushing, it's literally the biggest bushing on the car. It has a ton of play in it if it's blown out or worn out, or even if it's just
hanging there by a thread.
Yeah, so this is a super important bushing to do on your Honda track build. So yeah, Stage 4 Motorsports for your hard race needs, everybody.
All right, so that cup is sitting where I want it. I'm gonna have a look underneath, see if there's anything binding.
There she goes. Dirty old garbage bin dweller, be gone. Any other secrets as far as pressing this thing in? Just
clean the actual race first.
Yeah.
And then put a little bit of PB Blaster or WD-40. Everything's better with lube.
Yeah, that's true. That's just good advice in general. So now that Gen's put in the new rear trailing arm bushing, it's time to get the old trailing arms out. And the reason we're swapping the trailing arms is because of this hot mess right here called drum brakes that we hate.
For the rear-wheel drive conversion.
That's right. So going to disc brakes with those DC2 rear trailing arms. Is using a Sawzall a normal part of the K-swap procedure, Brian?
Not in Arizona.
This is a wrestling ball, is it?
Yeah. This cross brace, which comes on the Integrits, actually interferes with the differential on the K-Series. We tuck the motor way back, and the differential is actually a little bit larger than it would be on like a B-Series. So this has come out now. While taking it out, there's like retaining nuts welded inside this cross member. One of them broke loose because of the rust.
Right.
So now we get to saw the top of the bolt off. There'll be something in there that's going to rattle around a little bit, unfortunately, when we're done. But sawing it off is much easier than drilling a hole in the subframe and trying to pull it out that way, and then having a problem with a big hole in the subframe.
Gotcha.
All right, here we go.
Got the fuel pressure regulator on here.
Nice. Look at that. The K-Tuned goodies have begun.
I know. We're about to raid the warehouse there.
Yeah, that's right. I'll give you guys a quick tour while Peter continues to work. This is where we're stealing all our parts from. We got dudes over here packaging stuff. We got Rui over here. Not only a head mechanic, he also ships you your parts.
Yeah, a little bit of everything.
What do you got going out?
Header.
Header.
Yes, sir.
Well, we're going to be stealing one of those shortly. See all the good stuff they got back here. Traction bars. They got all the fuel lines and fittings in the world. Look at this place. It's K-swap heaven back here. Goodies for days. Well, Brian seems to think it's time to work on the K20 here, so we're playing along. This is our competition clutch stage 2 friction disc. As you can see, it's an organic style material, sprung hub, so it's going to be very streetable. It should have like very nice engagement, shouldn't be super heavy, although that's really dictated by the pressure plate, isn't
Right.
it? The heaviness of the clutch.
Yeah.
Anyway, nice streetable clutch, but it should definitely stand up to the track abuse that Pete and his brother are going to throw at it. And pressure plate, obviously. That's not a lot to talk about there, is there?
Well, we've cleaned it off.
We have cleaned it off, that's true. You got to wash that off. And we've got our aluminum flywheel, which is, I believe, 50% the weight.
It's steel,
of-
actually.
Oh, is it steel?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you're right. It is steel.
Yeah, but it's lighter than the stock one.
Yeah.
And for people doing like Accord or TSX engine swaps, that particular flywheel, nobody makes a performance clutch for it. So it's good to get the clutch kit with the flywheel because you're going to need another flywheel anyway if you want
Right.
to put a performance clutch on it.
Get it all in one, matched up.
Yeah,
ready
and
to
Comp
go.
Clutch sells this as an actual kit.
Yeah. Brian will now do the dirty work of bolting this on, and he had a good tip for us on these bolts.
Oh yeah. So the bolts, you can't use B series or H series flywheel bolts on a K series. This hole in the crankshaft is actually a little bit shallower. So if you try to use the B series ones, they're just slightly longer, and what'll happen, it'll actually mushroom the end of the threads when they bottom out before it tightens up all the way. And then you can actually ruin your crankshaft trying to back the bolts out once you figure out that they're too loose. Yeah, so be careful and get them. And the way to tell is there's this F12 written in the center on the bolt. That's how you can tell it's an OE Honda
Right.
clutch bolt or flywheel bolt.
We've set Brian up with the most luxurious workstation here on his foam pad on the ground. We're a first-class organization here, Brian. We looked up the spec. It's 80 foot-pounds.
80 foot-pounds.
We were exaggerating.
110, 20 would have been fine.
We were close enough. We've drafted some muscle back there to hold the crank. We don't have the right tool to hold the flywheel. We'll just use Ken as the right tool. When in doubt, Ken is always the right tool. for
There's
the
always a
job.
tool.
So not only does this kit come with an alignment tool for your installing the clutch, it also comes with a brand new release bearing. So we're going to install that right now.
Beauty. And why is it important to replace that? I guess these ones just get old and crusty. And
They do. They just wear out after a while because every time you depress the clutch, basically the bearing is spinning along with the engine, so under pressure. So it's a good idea to replace it. And the other thing is,
Oh yeah.
gets kind of grimy in here as
Yep.
well, so you want to clean this off as best you can, a little brake cleaner, and then add some anti-seize on it. That will actually kind of help it spin on there freely without galling the metal basically and creating problems for you later
Gotcha.
on. And heat creates heat.
Heat. Heat is the enemy of all cars.
Heat is the enemy.
We're almost done over there, Pete. What's going on over here?
I just spent 20 minutes putting the return line on. It is a bit of a tight fit, so
Just to slide it on the
yeah, it makes it kind of tough. You got to really wiggle it.
Okay.
I recommend some penetrating, XXX penetrating fluid.
Triple X. Wow.
Oh yeah, that's the good
interesting
stuff.
brand name,
Yeah.
Brian was saying use some like hand soap, like Dawn dish soap.
Yeah, I think any type of lubrication when you're putting that together will help.
Yep.
But I'm actually really impressed with this whole K-tuned fuel pressure regulator setup.
Yeah.
We've got the gauge there, and all the lines and fittings are
Mm-hmm.
already pre-cut and ready to go. So it's
The
pretty
right length.
awesome. Yeah, this is gonna be an easy job. I think I'm done here for now until we get the motor in and we hook up the actual return line from the fuel rail to the actual regulator.
I like this bracket because every time I mount a fuel pressure regulator, it's like, where am I going to mount it? How am I going to do that?
Yeah, and this is actually optional. It's one of the accessories they sell with the kit, but it's pretty awesome.
Just takes the thinking out of it.
Exactly.
Oh, did you get the right bolts?
Yeah, you can return these. These are actually to hold the two halves of the case together.
Oh,
So
so he was trying to rebuild the transmission.
the bolts hold the two halves of the case together.
You ordered the wrong bolts, rookie.
Well, I just looked at a diagram on the internet, so the internet told me.
Oh, it's the internet's
listened to the
fault.
internet.
Oh, I see how it is.
That's how it always goes.
Blame
It's always
the internet.
internet's fault when something goes wrong.
What a guy.
We're moving on to the suspension part of the job up front, actually.
Mm-hmm. I've got this fancy blue hard race upper control arm. Obviously, it's got a camber adjustable upper ball joint, which is easily replaced should you blow this out, and easily adjusted with these 4 nuts or bolts at the top. Got your hardened rubber bushings in the back, so less slop in those pickup points. Heavy duty construction. You ain't never gonna break this, people.
Well, and we're going to be installing some StopTech centric rotors that are slotted. We've got, it's actually a whole sport kit.
Right.
Which is the front and rear setup. I've got brake pads. I think these are sport pads that are going to help with the, are they good for the track?
Yeah, we ran them on the
Little here.
S2000 and they were fine actually. They're not super aggressive, but they're definitely trackable.
Yeah, and they're good for the street as well, so
Yeah.
it's a good in-between pad, and we've got some stainless steel brake lines.
Man, these rotors and lines look so good. It's a shame the calipers look like a rusted piece of locomotive, but it's got fresh pads in there. That's what matters.
You gotta leave a little bit of that rust life going on,
Yeah,
right?
it is Canada.
We can't just be like, here, Jake, here's a brand new car. We've rebuilt everything.
Oh,
for
wait a
you."
minute. This is for Jake?
This is for Jake.
I'm out.
Sorry, Ken, you don't get to rip this one. What the? Doing some
Some woodworking.
We're cutting wood here. But,
Yeah.
So what about a K-swap requires you to cut wood?
Well, actually, one of the things I like to do is make the engine level when we're using a lift. For
Okay.
these things, that way it bolts in a lot easier. So basically what I'm doing is making a couple of wedges that I can put underneath the block over there on our cart.
Okay.
And that way I can get the engine perfectly level, and when we bolt it in, it takes a matter of seconds rather than a matter of...
Everything lines up?
Yeah, exactly.
Gotcha.
So,
Shimming it like a piano tuner here.
there we go.
She's ready to go in the hole. We got the old Hondata, what's this
Yep,
material called?
thermal.
Phylonetic or whatever it's called?
Phenolic.
Phenolic, that's the word.
Phenolic.
Phenolic.
Phenolic gasket, yeah.
And it acts as a heat barrier, right?
Right. It keeps the engine from soaking the intake manifold with heat and raising your intake air temps.
Gotcha. This is what's going to feed the air into Jake's K20, 72 mil K-tune throttle body. And Sean here is going to give us a quick little show and tell because they've got 3 throttle bodies. We only need 1. We're not doing ITBs, are we, Pete?
No, especially not that size.
Pretty cool setup where they have a, this is your
That's a V-band.
V-band style.
And that's Van Gen. They're interchangeable inlets for our turbo cars for the most part.
So you literally use this. This is what's on the standard one, and you can swap that out to this style or this style on your existing throttle body, right?
Yeah, 4 screws. There's an O-ring seal in the back. And instead of welding to your throttle body for your turbo pipe,
Yeah.
you just change it out. Saves you a lot of time and money, and
Very cool.
looks much better.
So many nice details on this too. I mean, it comes with your throttle cable bracket. The cam can be repositioned to get it in the right spot for the cable length that you're running. Obviously, you make them in different sizes too.
80 and 90 millimeter.
80 and 90 mil. So when Jake, you go to a turbo setup, we can get you a 90 mil one. Make all the boosts. Speaking of which, these are pressure tested, right?
Yes, 80 PSI, every one before they ship.
So you big turbo boys, you know where to get your throttle bodies. They also make throttle cables and even TPSs, which the K guys know. TPSs can be a challenge to keep in one piece. K-Tune has you covered on that too. This looks like it's a very nice like billet housing on it.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Well, let's bolt some parts up.
Not everybody's aware of this. Alternators are different. There's a couple different configurations of water pump. The difference is the offset. For instance, if you throw this one on and were to tighten down the bottom bolts, this sits nice and flush.
Okay.
This other alternator, if you do the same thing, tighten it down nice and flush, get this little gap in here. I don't know if you can see that.
Oh yeah.
See the gap?
Yep.
And that's because it goes with a different water pump. This is probably,
Is that off the K24?
I'm going to say, no, well, yeah, this could be off an Accord. Wow. It's got the-
TSX.
this is off the TSX?
TSX.
Okay. So I think that's actually the same as the Accord, so this offset's slightly different. So save it for your TSX. And
Yep.
this one style works on RSXs and this particular
Civic
this
SI
particular
motor,
car. Yeah, the
right.
Civic SI motor.
What you got here, Peter?
This is the power steering pump relocation kit. And it's actually really clever. It's gonna mount down here where the old air conditioner was,
Okay.
or condenser pump. But we're gonna bolt that onto there, and then the power steering pump from an RSX is gonna fit up right in line, mint and tidy. We're in the final stages of bolting the power steering pump onto the bracket here, and I gotta say, this stuff is so well thought out and made. So we've got a swivel line here so we can adjust it to make it turn whatever way we want. This is for the return line, and this is for our feed line, which has an AN fitting now on it. So we are good to go. K-Tuned actually provides an AN line for the power steering that's gonna run back over to our actual rack itself.
One of the things we're doing with this is changing some of the K-Tune parts for the radiator hose mounts. This goes to the lower radiator hose. This is a, upper radiator hose. This on the K24 Accord block, TSX block, the newer Civic Si, this mounts onto the side. It's kind of part of the EGR valve. It also does the water passages. So it does quite a lot of stuff. This engine, of course, doesn't run with an EGR valve, so it comes with this block-off plate. Rather than having all this garbage on there, K-Tune makes this really nice setup right here. You can actually get it with AN fittings if you want.
Oh,
a lot
nice.
of people like AN fittings on
Yeah.
their radiators, so you can have this changed out for an AN fitting. But basically, this covers the same function as this particular one does, and it blocks off the EGR valve.
K-Tune fuel rail going in.
This is the front and center piece of this engine.
Yeah, it's a showy piece, isn't it?
I like the
Yeah.
flat black.
Yeah.
It's a hell of a, hopefully it'll distract away from the
Need
rest
a
of the
valve
look.
cover?
We're changing that out too.
Yeah,
Okay.
That needs
That's
some,
on the list.
I need some help, no doubt.
This is a special valve cover for me. It was my first K-swap that I did on my Integra. I drove it down to California and brought it back to Canada when I used to work for the magazine. But I decided to keep the valve cover because it was kind of sentimental. So now I'm passing the torch down to the brother, and we're getting rid of, where's our crusty
Oh yeah, that guy.
silver one?
Yeah.
That thing is just...
She's skankerific. Yeah, look at the the coating is just coming off. Whew. Hear that pop in place.
And look at that. Does this motor not look 1,000 times better?
It is looking pretty sexy. Not gonna lie.
All right, check this out. Forget stock, of course. What was I thinking? K-Tune's gonna have some awesome wicked billet oil cap here. I'm gonna peel the sticker.
Oh, actually, you screw it in first, and that way you get it perfectly lined up.
Oh, there. Oh, Brian.
See, Brian knows how to tune an oil cap.
I'm an oil cap too from way back.
One of
Way,
those
way
oil-
back in the day.
Oil cap snob right here, huh?
Oh,
K-Tune just changed the valve cover tuning game, everyone.
wow. I was just about to install the factory OEM slave cylinder here, but apparently the diaphragm in these goes bad, Dave, right?
Yeah, apparently they
They
out.
wear out. So K-Tuned, go figure, has a replacement, and it's based off of the 02 to 04 RSX slave, which doesn't have that diaphragm built into it, which means it's gonna last longer, it's gonna feel better when you're banging those gears, so we're installing it.
So tell us about this harness massaging that you've done.
Well, this particular harness comes off an RSX. Things are in slightly different positions. Right now I'm just kind of rearranging everything, making sure it all fits, goes where it needs to be. That's another thing I have to do is I can lengthen this out or I can replace the sensor. I'm just gonna go ahead and replace the sensor with one like this style.
Oh, the straight out style.
Yeah,
Got
so
ya.
you plug it straight on.
Yeah.
We also had to change the oil sensor. The newer style one uses a different plug. We took an older style oil sensor and put it on there so we could use the bullet style connector.
Yeah.
And then it's pretty much done there. Oh, and then on the front, oh boy. So this is our starter cable. There is the knock sensor wire and the 4 wires that run this. Normally there's a charge harness that people will buy a lot of times. It costs about 125 bucks from Honda.
Yeah.
What I prefer to do is actually just extend these wires to the knock sensor and to the alternator, extend this wire to the starter, and kind of do away with the whole thing about grabbing the charge harness. And then for the charge harness, what we'll do is we'll make a harness that comes from the battery, which will be over here, down to the cable that goes to the starter. There's another cable that then goes to the fuse box. Then we'll take the cable that goes from the alternator to the fuse box, and we'll kind of make our own little mini harness for that particular part of the thing. A lot easier than modifying the one for the RSX, which doesn't really fit. You have to wind up doing all sorts of stuff to make it fit.
Time to cut some boxes open, people. It's actually time to put a suspension, and I mean shocks and springs, on the EK. K-Tune now makes coilovers. And I brought Rui in because I don't know anything about them, so he's going to educate us on them. But first, let's open the box. So that is a front, this is a rear. You know why I know that? Because I'm a Honda guy, and I know that goes on the rear control arm, and that goes into the front control arm. So these are your street ones, is that right?
Yes, that's our full street version, 32-way adjustable. It comes with bushings for either EK or EG, which EK has a bigger bushing,
Right.
and we supply the right bushings for them.
Oh, nice, okay.
spacing.
So they spacer in here.
Exactly.
Got you, okay. And they obviously appear to be independently ride height adjustable versus
Exactly.
spring preload.
Yep.
And have they been track tested by anyone yet?
They have.
And-
There's a few guys around. There's James Houghton,
Yeah.
obviously himself, with, but he's got the K2
Oh, he's got the race kit, right?
the race kit.
So that's
yeah.
more hardcore in
Yeah,
terms of
yeah.
the valving, and you
Exactly,
can handle more
exactly.
spring rate and all that.
It comes with a different, completely different spring period
Right.
than these.
Well, we're going street. We're also going to test them on the track, so we'll be able to tell you how well these work on the track by the end of this series. You want to take it away?
I'll just say, hey,
Hey.
we're done with day 2.
Day
Working-
3.
Day 3.
Day 3.
Oh my God. Well, my day 2.
Yeah, it is your day 2. It's our day
Yeah.
3.
So working hard right now. I scavenged some parts off other wiring harnesses to complete this wiring harness. We're gonna be ready to put this motor in tomorrow and see how the timing goes, maybe fire it up. So anyway,
That's a wrap?
That is a wrap for
Day
day
three?
3.
He's talking a big game over here. He says this thing's going to run tomorrow. Do we believe him, Pete?
I think we do.
All right.
We're well on our way here.
give it
No
a
major
try.
hiccups yet.
Get back to work here, man. Get back to work. We're going to feed him some tacos. We'll take care of him tonight. A couple hours of sleep.
some good beer.
Be right back
And
at
it's
it.
full hands on deck.
That's right.
Tomorrow.
5 horsepower sticker.
Ah, I messed it up. My gloves.
Did you not get it
It's off
centered?
center.
Oh,
It's these gloves, man.
Peter.
It's okay. We can fix this.
You blew it.